I've never known Jerry not to be all in any given year.
A lot of people think the Cowboys are going to miss the playoffs this year. I'm here to tell you today why they're wrong. What's up, everybody? Back here with the Seth Floyd Show, back in my office today. Got a spicy video for you about the Dallas Cowboys and why they're not going to be as bad as everyone thinks they are. First, guys, do you want a chance to win a LaDainian Tomlinson signed, authenticated, and signed trading card? All you got to do is subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Okay, subscribe, and then leave a comment in the video telling me who you think is going to win the Super Bowl this year. Okay, once we get to 100 subscribers, okay, I will draw a name out of everyone who's entered, and whoever wins, I'll get your information. I will ship it to you. I'll pay for the shipping, and I'll ship it to you. You get your very own LaDainian Tomlinson signed trading card, authenticated by Fanatics. Okay, he could be my favorite non-49er football player of all time. I think he's the most underrated running back in NFL history. Okay, so anyway, you want a chance to win? Subscribe, leave a comment in this video or another video. Tell me who you think is going to win the Super Bowl in 2024. Today, the Cowboys. Now listen, I live in Dallas, okay? Or I live in the suburbs of Dallas, outside of Dallas a little bit. And so I'm really plugged into Dallas sports talk radio and of course like the national media too, okay? And there's like this trend, there's this wave right now. People talking about how the Cowboys are going to take a step back, which isn't crazy, but a lot of people are getting so hot and spicy with their takes trying to tell me that the Cowboys are going to miss the playoffs in 2024, and I don't think that's logical. I can't find any good reason why that would be the case. The only thing that I hear people talk about is this. They say Jerry Jones is an idiot. From a football standpoint, listen, he has made some questionable decisions. That's not what I'm knocking you on, okay? They say Jerry Jones is an idiot because he came out this offseason, said the Cowboys are all in, and then they did nothing at free agency. Basically nothing.
Great about what we've been in free agency. All in. All in. All in. We're all in with these young guys coming on. And we're all in with this draft.
They let some guys go. They've made like 2 official signings, and that was it. And so now everyone wants to hammer Jerry Jones, and it's spiraled out of control, like this momentum that the Cowboys aren't even going to make the playoffs. To me, that's not logical. That's not rational. Let me tell you why. First, like, as I said before, like they lost some people in free agency, but who? Like off the top of your head, can you even tell me who they lost in free agency? The only name I can really think is Tyron Smith, who's like 100 years old and going to be in the retirement home soon. Okay, he signed with the Jets. He couldn't stay healthy. That's not a loss to me. In fact, they upgraded at the position, in my opinion, okay, with Tyler Guyton, who we'll talk about here in a second. So first, they didn't lose any big names. They are essentially the same roster of the core important pieces. And in fact, they added a handful of guys that are going to make them better. I'll tell you what, who. These 3 guys on defense are going to improve the Cowboys defense this year. Okay, first, DeMarvion Overshown. Okay, I think he was crap. I should have looked it up. A 2nd or a 3rd round pick out of Texas last year. Okay, loved him at Texas. He was a baller all over the field. Okay, in camp last year, he tore his ACL. Okay, he was supposed to play linebacker for him. Okay, I expect DeMarvion Overshown to make an impact this year, even if like he's still a rookie in the sense of like getting actual meaningful playing time. But they were so thin at linebacker last year. After Leighton Vander Esch got hurt and like couldn't play anymore, basically at the end of the year they were dropping safeties into the box trying to play linebacker, and they were like in a nickel and dime look, but hoping these strong safeties could play the run game, which clearly doesn't work very well. So you've got DeMarvion Overshown, who very well could be the starter midway through the season, if not sooner. Okay, it just kind of depends how he looks coming back from his ACL, but he had a lot of hope, a lot of hype around him because he's a stud. Okay, so he comes back this year. They also signed Eric Kendricks in free agency. If you're a 49ers fan, you feel it like I feel it, because he originally agreed with the Niners. He was going to take over for Greenlaw until Greenlaw comes back. Who knows when that'll be. And then, but it's like that legal tampering period, so he had verbally agreed, but then when it came to actually put pen to paper, he had flipped and signed with the Cowboys, who he's not like the best linebacker in the world. He is not a top-tier linebacker, but he's been an all-pro in his career, and he's like a stable, healthy guy who's on the field. He's athletic. He can cover. Like, he is a decent addition, is why I was upset when he left, okay, and chose to sign with the Cowboys instead of the 49ers, okay? Those two guys right there are going to help solidify the defense a little bit, especially in the run game, okay? I think that is going to be a big factor for them. The other thing is, everyone's forgotten Trayvon Diggs was gone all year last year, okay? Tore his, I think his was an ACL as well. Might have been an Achilles. Was it an ACL? I think it was an ACL, okay? In camp. He's coming back. And guess what? You still have Deron Bland, who Deron Bland last year set the record for pick sixes. Crazy. It's not gonna be his whole career. He's not gonna do that all the time. But that's pretty significant. Trayvon Diggs had like 11 interceptions 2 years ago. Okay. Now Trayvon Diggs is limited. I understand. If you're a 49ers fan, you know. Sorry, I'm gonna take a quick drink of the old Bang right here. Man, sometimes it just hits you, and you're just like, anyway, it's good stuff. Trayvon Diggs, especially if you're a 49ers fan, you know, this was the argument we all got in on the old social media, on the old twitter.com or the x.com. Trayvon Diggs is just a ball hawk.
Saw a hawk today on the overpass, looking at me.
Gambles, and he loses a lot. Okay, he gives up a lot of yards, like I get that, but I would take him over Stephon Gilmore. Okay, if Cowboy fans or other people, you tell me if I'm wrong, but I would take Trayvon Diggs over Stephon Gilmore, who is just kind of limping to the finish line here. I don't think he's on a team. Okay, they let him go. No other teams were interested in him. So Trayvon Diggs is coming back. He also could get better, by the way. Ball hawk, maybe Al Harris, who's the DB's coach over there, will help him like develop. Like, look, you've got to pick and choose. I'm just saying, there's room for improvement, and he was pretty dang good before he left. Just cut down on some of the gambles he was making. But those three guys, those are three new pieces that, like, no, none of them were huge names. Like, two of them were already on your team. Eric Kendricks didn't blow the doors off on as like a high named free agent, but I think it was a good signing. Like, these are potential moves, potential players you're getting back that are going to improve your defense that really limped to the finish line at the end of the year last year. Despite, like, I know the Cowboys just play bully ball, okay? Sometimes the defense looked unbelievable. Look, like Dallas local radio here, pretty funny. Local radio after like 2 weeks was talking about, is this an all-time great defense? Could you argue that this is the best defense of all time? And then they lost to the Cardinals and whatever. That's what Dallas did last year with Dan Quinn, especially on defense. They beat up on teams that were worse than them, but they kind of got punched in the mouth against better teams, and they would fold. Now, is that a Dan Quinn trait? Maybe, and Dan Quinn's gone. There's a possibility that's a Dan Quinn thing. We'll see. But I have optimism for these three guys that they added, okay? Let's talk about Mike Zimmer, who they also added, who's not a player on the field, but a coach, a very well-renowned, very well-respected coach in this league. His last stint was with the Vikings. He was the head coach there, okay? And they had some success. No, they didn't win a championship. They got to an NFC championship, lost to the Eagles in 2017, but he is a good piece. For example, he knows defense. He is a defensive guy, okay, called the defense for Minnesota, okay? According to FTN Fantasy, okay, Mike Zimmer defenses ranked by DVOA, okay, from 2016 to 2019. DVOA, by the way, is like an advanced metric, more than just yards. They take a lot more into account, and a lot of people are pretty into it. It's like a more accurate way of measuring defenses instead of just going by yards given up. 2016 to 2019, that's 4 seasons. They were top 5 every year. In that 4-year span, they were top 5. Okay, and in 2017, the year they got to the NFC Championship game, they were the number 1 defense in the NFL, ranked by DVOA. Now, that's a pretty big accomplishment. That's not nothing. His last 2 years in Minnesota, they tailed off a bunch. Okay, they were outside of the top 10, wasn't great. But Mike Zimmer knows defense despite those last 2 years. And I'll chalk up, I'm open to the possibility that those last 2 years were he's exhausted. The head coaching thing is more than just focusing on the defense, and it was starting to catch up to him.
No! Minnesota Vikings crying on the field.
Roster-wise, they weren't as strong. There could be a lot of answers. My point is he is now going back to just focusing on the defense. He doesn't have to focus on building a culture. He doesn't have to focus on, okay, what's the offensive game plan? What are they doing? Okay, like, do I sign off on that? What's the special teams game plan? Oh, okay, sign off on that. I don't have to do all these press conference. I don't have to do all this to make my quarterback happy, who he didn't get along with Kirk Cousins at the end. Like, He does not have to do that. All he gets to do is walk into the building and focus on the defense, back to his roots. And I think that could be really good for Mike Zimmer, who's like an old school guy, gonna hit you in the mouth kind of guy. I think the defense is not gonna drop off like some people think. And again, there was the Dan Quinn aspect where, man, they would get bullied against better offenses. At times they looked bad. And I think you're gonna avoid some of that with Mike Zimmer. Maybe I'm wrong, but I can see that happening now that he just gets to focus on the defense. Okay, now let's flip to the offense. Okay, offensive line should be better, I think. Okay, we talked about Tyron Smith being gone. Guys, he was hurt half the season, or I don't know if it was a full half the season, but he didn't play every game. He missed significant time, and even when he was in there, like, he's a big body, he's a savvy vet, but man, he has lost a step. He's not what he was. Okay, so he's gone, and who did they add? They added Tyler Guyton. Now, Tyler Guyton coming out, I was not, I thought he was good. I didn't think he was like a slam dunk, like should be a starter his first year. But everything you've seen out of camp, okay, with Tyler Guyton, and then in that preseason game, like he's stonewalling people. Now he's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes like all rookies do, whether they're physical mistakes or mental mistakes. But so far, the early returns on Tyler Guyton are pretty solid. Okay, you're very excited about Tyler Guyton if you're a Cowboys fan. You should be. Okay, you might have just found your left tackle for the next 10 years. Doesn't mean he'll be the best tackle in the league, but he's probably a top 8 tackle in the league at his peak, and it's just stability, which you had none with Tyron Smith. Okay, so you're adding Tyron Smith. You also have Cooper Beebe, who it looks like Cooper Beebe, who's also a rookie, is fighting for snaps with the first team at center, which would be huge. Playing next to Zach Martin, yeah, that would be huge. Okay, he might not start week 1 at center, but he's gonna get reps this season. I'm very, very confident. Might be week 1, might be week 5, might be week 8, but at some point he's gonna be in that starting lineup, which is another improvement. Like, that's a good, solid improvement for the Dallas Cowboys offensive line. No, it's not the sexiest pick. No, it's not like some splashy trade or whatever, but like, these are the kind of moves that just like, oh, okay, like we're probably gonna be fine. Maybe we'll get a little better. That's how football works. It's not just big splashy trades. It's not the NBA where you have to have a superstar. You just make one big trade for a superstar and all of a sudden you're really good. Or baseball, you make a huge trade at the deadline and all of a sudden it pushes you over the hump. Like, you're drafting guys, you're developing guys. A lot of guys that don't have a lot of name recognition, but they come in and they're just like a B player, a B plus player. And oh, cool, all of a sudden we're like pretty good. We're pretty stout. We don't make a lot of mistakes. Like, that's what I think is going to happen. Okay. Now, some other concerns that people have. CeeDee Lamb is not in camp yet. Guys, he's going to get signed. I know Jerry puts his foot in his mouth. He said things like, oh, we're in no rush, and like, oh, we're all in, and then everything he does is the opposite of those things, but he's going to get signed. They have no choice. He's going to get signed, okay? He's going to be there. Now, he might, hopefully it's sooner rather than later. I'm not a big fan of guys missing all of training camp and then showing up week 1 practice that Monday leading into game week. Like, I don't think that's good. But regardless, even if that were the case, CD is going to be there. And he's going to, maybe he starts a little slow, but he's still CeeDee Lamb, man. You trust that he's in shape. His timing with Dak might be off a little bit, but if he signs here in the next week, like, I don't know how much that timing will be off. Could be all right. So CD's going to be there, okay? I'm not freaking out until he's missing actual games. That's my opinion, and I know he's going to be there because they have no choice. The one way you could look at it positively too is like, look, they had 3 major contracts that are coming up. You've got CD, Dak, and Micah. Well, Dak is playing. I thought there was a chance Dak wasn't going to play, but Dak is like, screw it, I'll just play on my final year, and then I'll hit free agency next year if that's the case, and I'll make a ton of money. Like, he's there. That's huge. If Dak was out, it would be a different story, okay? Micah's there. Okay, it's huge. Micah is going to play, and he's going to get the bag next year, but he could have held out. So you have those 2 guys there. They've just got to get CD figured out. Yes, it's annoying they haven't figured it out yet, but he's going to, and the offense isn't going to be derailed for an entire season because CD Lamb missed half a training camp or even all the training camp. Okay, so I still can't find a real reason why the Cowboys are going to be so much worse that they don't make the playoffs. I still can't. Okay. Here's another one people bring up. They didn't sign a big running back in free agency and they didn't draft one. Okay, I think their plan was to draft Jonathan Brooks. Jerry Jones essentially said that in the draft, and then they didn't get him because Jerry's dumb and he put out there who they wanted to draft and someone drafted him first. But guys, here, like, do you guys understand? If you've never played football, like, you probably don't know. If you've never coached football, you probably don't know. It's not your fault. And this isn't a bad thing if you don't know. I'm going to let you in on a secret. I played running back whole life, all through high school. I played it in college, okay? And let me tell you something about running back. It is the easiest position on the football field. It is the easiest position to play. That's why all the time you get these random running backs that you've never heard of have like one really good season, just like off season, because a team was like short on running backs and they just filled the guy in there and they had a good run scheme and the running back ran hard and guess what? He had 1,000 yards, 1,200 yards. And then sure, they might disappear after that, but like that's why you get these random one-offs all the time with running back, because it's the easiest position to play on the football field. If you're fast, if you can understand the playbook where you're supposed to run, like, and you have a decent offensive line, like your run game is going to be fine. And also, like, I get, like, they should have signed Derrick Henry. I would have done that, okay? This is dumb they didn't. If they'd had signed Jonathan Brooks, I would feel way better about the offense. But guys, the run game sucked last year. The run game was bad last year. Tony Pollard was not good. All of you fantasy football players that invested highly in Tony Pollard, me,
idiot.
You're upset and you're mad because he wasn't that good last year, okay? But they were fine. They won 12 games. They were the 2 seed, okay? So I'm not here to tell you that the run game is going to be amazing. I'm saying it's not going to be hard to recreate what they did last year with Tony Pollard, with Zeke and Rico Dowdle and anybody else, which, by the way, they might sign somebody. Running back is that position where after the cut downs go from 90 to 53, like teams are going to let running backs go. And you could just sign somebody, and maybe he's not your week 1 starter, but by week 3, you're like, hey, this guy's going to take like 10 carries a game, and he's going to 1-2 with Zeke. Like, that's very real, and then all of a sudden it's fixed. But Pollard only had 1,000 yards last year. Guys, in a 17-game season, and Pollard played 17 games, 1,000 yards is not the benchmark of like greatness. It's closer to like 1,200 yards or 1,300 yards to be like a really great running back. 1,000 yards in a 17-game season is 58 yards a game, which feels about right. That's how frustrating Tony Pollard was. You're telling me they can't rush for 58 yards a game between Zeke and Rico Dowdle? They can. They can. Okay? I'm not saying the running game is going to be great. I'm just calling out all those people that think the Cowboys are going to have a major drop-off because they lost Tony Pollard, who wasn't that good last year. That doesn't make any sense. Logically, that doesn't make any sense. And in my previous video, I told you, Tony Pollard was not good in the red zone. He was not good inside the 10 last year. Okay? Zeke is going to be good inside the 10 this year. What do you think is going to... I'm telling you, anytime they get inside the 10, it's going to be feed Zeke. Zeke's biggest damage... Zeke's stat line every week is going to be like 30 to 40 yards on 10 carries, but 2 touchdowns, because they're going to get inside the 10, they're going to hand it off to him. And he's going to be much better at that than Tony Pollard is. So there's, I don't know, in my eyes, that's probably an improvement. That's probably an improvement, okay? Zeke is also really good in pass protection. I don't know if I mentioned that. That's the hardest part of playing running back, by the way, is the easiest part is just running the football because you're just natural. You're fast and you've done it. You know what it feels like. Just don't fumble. The hardest part and what keeps guys off the field is being able to pass block. Well, Zeke's really good at that. And anyway, they could, and they also could sign somebody. There's going to be cut downs. There's going to be cut downs, and they could sign someone. I would imagine they will. And then guess what? Now you probably have a number 2 right behind Zeke that just 1-2 punch. No, it's not going to be a sexy name, but what does that matter? Like, it didn't matter last year. Okay, it didn't matter last year. And finally, I'm gonna take you to my final point. My final point, guys. Mike McCarthy, yes, he's one of the more polarizing coaches because he makes weird decisions. And he makes weird decisions, especially in the playoffs. But I'm not talking the playoffs. I'm talking about getting to the playoffs. If you want to argue with me and tell me, like, Seth Floyd, they can't win the big one. They can't go to the NFC Championship game. They can't. They're going to blow it. Dak is going to crap the bed when it matters most in the playoffs. Fine. That's fine. That's not what this video is about. This video is about them making the playoffs. And what I know about Mike McCarthy in his 4 years as the Cowboys head coach, the last 3 of those years, he's gone 12-5. He's won 12 games 3 straight years. I can name about 10 different franchises that would sign up for that immediately, even if it meant blowing a wild card playoff game, okay? Because 12 games is a lot, is what I'm trying to say. And the year before, his first year when they went 6-10, that was when Dak broke his ankle, okay? So you've got 3 straight years of Mike McCarthy just knowing ball and getting it done. Again, I don't think he's going to get to the Super Bowl. I don't think I think that time of his career is gone. I know he had a great run with Green Bay, but I don't think that's it. But I'm talking about regular season, okay? Regular season. I can't find anything. I think the last thing, like, people have such a bad taste in their mouth with how bad Dak played and how bad the defense was in that wild card game. But guys, like, first off, as I mentioned before, the Cowboys had nobody on defense. Their linebackers were all hurt. They were like dropping safeties, hoping they could play linebacker, and they couldn't, especially in the run game. They were giving up like 12 yards a pop, especially in that first half. Okay, defense was decimated. Okay, they also, and yes, Dak played bad, but guys, Green Bay was like the hottest team in the NFL at the time. You could argue they were the best team in the NFC, and they blew it against the 49ers. I think if they beat the 49ers in that divisional round, I think Green Bay goes on to the Super Bowl. And I don't know if they'd win it, maybe not, but I think they would have represented if they hadn't have blown that game against the Niners. That's how hot the Green Bay Packers were. So don't let that wild card game, as disappointing as it was, to like influence you so emotionally that you think, oh, the wheels have completely come off for Dallas and they're not even going to make the playoffs. Like, that's crazy. They're a lock. And in my other video, I'm doubling down. I think they're going to win the division. My first video I did, I talked about how they're going to win the division over Philly. Philly has problems with their head coach. Their quarterback can't get along. Watch my previous video. They brought in Kellen Moore to like smooth it over. But what has Kellen Moore done to make you think that he can just fix that? I'm still in on Dallas. They win 12 games every year. I don't know. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't this year, is what I'm saying. In conclusion, they're the same team. I pinpointed a few areas where I think they probably have improved, and I think they're going to win the division. And to me, they're a lock for the playoffs. I understand that winning the division isn't a lock, but to me, going to the playoffs, winning 10 games and going to the playoffs is a lock to me. Even if there's a 7 seed. There's 7 seeds. There's 7 teams in the playoffs, guys. It has never been easier to make the playoffs. And this team that has won 12 games 3 years in a row, essentially the same team, like, they're going back to the playoffs. I don't care. I know there's a overly negative bias towards the Cowboys, like for good reason in a lot of ways, but let's also be rational and logical here. And I'm not a Cowboys fan. Guys, look, I'm not a Cowboys fan. I don't know if I've made that clear, if you've seen my stuff. Big 49ers fan, but I'm just trying to be rational and logical. Guys, that's all I've got. Please like the video, subscribe. Hey, if you want a chance to win the card, have your name entered in, okay? Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave a comment on this video or another video and just tell me the 2024 Super Bowl champs will be, and tell me the name, your prediction. Okay, I'll get your name entered and we'll get it popping. You guys have a good one. I'm out.